attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining us for our webcast today. We'll be presenting Making the Step Up to Creo 3.0 today. I'm Matt Tognarelli. I will be the moderator for the webcast today. Dan Harlan will be our presenter. He's a senior application engineer with BWI. We'll begin with a brief BWI intro, who we are and how we help manufacturers with solutions across the product lifecycle. Those are new to the webcast series. And then we'll go right into a presentation around making the step up to Creo 3.0 with a live demo, and then wrap up with Q&A at the end. We'll also actually kind of leaving this up as we're doing the presentation. If you do have a question kind of pertaining to some of what Dan is covering, please feel free to send those questions in, and I'll monitor those and interrupt Dan if I feel that it's something that needs to be answered during the broadcast. If not, we may save it till the end of the broadcast. You're also currently in listen-only mode, and you can write in any questions in the webinar, and we'll get them answered one way or another, either during or after the webcast. So a quick introduction to Barry-Wehmiller International is a global engineering and enterprising consulting division of Barry-Wehmiller, a U.S.-based manufacturing leader with over 10,000 team members and operations worldwide, going on 130 years of business and approaching $2.5 billion in annual revenue. Our division provides total solutions across the product lifecycle, helping manufacturing leaders drive more business and engineering value. Barry-Wehmiller has a rich manufacturing legacy tracing back to 1885, serving all sizes of businesses ranging from small and mid-sized to Fortune 1000 manufacturers. We provide solutions for a diverse group of customers spanning the globe in Europe, Asia, and the U.S., from small companies to large, household names, and everything in between. Some of our well-known clients include PepsiCo, Polaris, Daisy, Anheuser-Busch, and many more. We have a quick couple of full questions, and then I will hand it over to Dan and let him do his presentation here. First question is, what version of Creo are you currently using? Alrighty, thank you. And second quick question is, what's preventing you from upgrading? Alrighty, thank you everyone for answering those quick polls. We will I will now hand it over and let Dan be the presenter and show you presentation. All right, Dan, you should now be the panelist. There we go.
All right, welcome everybody. Let me oops.
We can see your screen. You're good to go.
Okay. Let me move that a little bit out of the way. All right, so there's just a couple of topics here. We'll talk about what does it take effort-wise? What's the learning curve around going to Creo 3.0? How can we minimize that? And then we'll look at the specifics of what's been enhanced in 3.0, what's new to 3.0. We'll take a quick look at some of the compatibility around it, which is really typically not an issue. And then I've got a whole bunch of resources that we'll review that will help you not only with the update to 3.0, but also in terms of other things that you can do just to be more proficient and more efficient with Creo Parametric. So really, when it comes to Creo 2.0 and Creo 3.0, there's really very little that has changed. If you're coming from an earlier Wildfire 4, Wildfire 5, there is a significant change, but you'll find that between 2.0 and 3.0, and really between Creo 3.0 really adopts a modern interface. Typically we call it a ribbon interface that is really pretty intuitive and easy to get going. The core functionality has very few changes. We'll talk about those, and you'll see that really, hopefully, you'll experience the learning curve that I personally experienced, which was just very, very limited, very quick. Here's an example. On the top of each of these pairs is Creo 2.0. The bottom one is Creo 3.0. You can look at part mode, and you can see in part mode, really, there's almost no changes to the interface. You'll notice that, yes, some of the colors of the icons have been softened, and that's really about the extent of it. In the middle, we look at assembly mode, and again, guess what? The icons have been softened in their visual appearance. They're not as harsh as they used to be, but everything is pretty much still laid out exactly like it was. And then drawing mode at the bottom, again, guess what? Same theme. Again, we see the same interface, just simplified. And if you have any questions, you can see there's the chat window. I think Matt mentioned this, but I wanted to make sure that you can see that. The chat window there, you can type in your message and get to me or to Matt, actually, anything that you've got. So my favorite ways to shorten the curve, by and far, the easiest one is the command search. This is not new to Creo 3.0. It's been there, and in previous versions there were other things similar to this, but I absolutely love the command search. We'll actually take a look at it in a minute, but in the top right corner, you've got that little magnifying glass. If you click on that magnifying glass, it's not a global search. What it does is it just opens up commands and lets me, as I start to type, it goes and finds the command. And then I can actually hover over the command, the results that are being returned, and Creo will highlight the tab, the group, and the actual location of where that command is so I can learn it. I can also double-click on the search result and launch the command, but I love how it highlights the commands so I can learn where they are for next time. PTC's also put out a 12-page quick reference card that has a lot of good information in it. It's not all new to 3.0, but it's an overview. It's for anybody with 3.0 or anybody using Creo 3.0, and it's got some cool things that we'll look at it. As well as, if you do something all the time, you should have a map key for it, and you should customize your window layout. You can make your own icons to run your map keys so that you do things more efficiently. And then again, as I mentioned before, I've got a bunch of resources at the end that will help you shorten the learning curve from what's already, I feel, very short to very, very short. Okay. So I want to look at the quick reference card. You can see this, there's a table of contents, so it's actually, technically it's 13 pages long, but if you notice, one of those is an index. The things to keep in mind here is, you start out and it just gives you an overview. So this is perfect the first time you look at it. If you're an experienced CAD user, you look at it once, you say, okay, this is where things are, and I move on. Same thing with the file menu. It shows some of the most common, where the options are, what that looks like. Okay. Here, if you've never customized your window interface before, here's the time to learn it. Okay, you really can get a lot out of it. And I'll show you the command search or the command locator. Here's just again, it's so important to know where that is. Talks about mouse stuff. There's a bunch of keyboard shortcuts, Control-G, Control-A. Those are ones that you probably already knew about, but there's more of them. Okay. A bunch of the common icons. Okay, these are the ones that we find in the feature dashboard, but what do they mean? As well as spin, pan, zoom. How do I get to what? When I hold down the shift and the control and so on, what's the behavior there? Talks about model appearances, and then here on the last couple of pages, if you've never done what we call advanced selection, this is something you really need to go learn. I can select all the edges that are what we call a surface loop of a surface, so that I can round them all at one time. I don't have to go and select them all 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So you can do, there's all sorts of stuff here in selecting tangent chains, boundary changes from two loops, some really cool stuff in there. So with those, I find those couple of things are really key to shortening what curve exists. And again, I'm going to reiterate it because I love it. Oh, I meant to show you. I almost forgot. The command search. So here in the upper right corner, there's this little magnifying glass, and it's all the time when I talk to people who have been using Creo 2, Creo 3 for months or a year or two, they never came up here and clicked on this button. Okay, so there's a couple. The example that I grabbed the screenshot earlier, you can see as I start to type, it immediately starts giving me a list. So I don't know where helical sweep is. I don't remember. It's been a year since I've used it. Well, look. Creo highlights it for me. It tells me what tab it's in. Hey, it's in the Model tab. It's in the Cuts and Surfaces menu. It's in the Shapes helical sweep. Okay. The other one that comes up all the time is switch stems. Where is switch stems? Okay. Guess what? It's actually in two places. One, Model, and then it's right underneath where the command search is. The other one is under the Tools switch dimensions. Same function, just in two locations, and it highlights it for me. And you can simply click on it, and it activates and does that. I should have had some dimensions displayed here for you to show that. So the command search, again, I'll reiterate, very, very powerful for getting rid of the learning curve when you update to the current Creo Parametric. Oh, and I'm glad I keep coming back to this because I keep forgetting what I told myself I was going to show you. Window customization, there's a couple of things. The first thing I always do is my quick access toolbar. Show quick access toolbar below the ribbon. Because to me, quick access, I want it as close to the graphic window as I can get it. Okay. One of the other things, the in graphics toolbar, I like mine on the left. Guess what? I can do that. So you can change the size of the buttons. So you're really good with your mouse and you're really accurate where you go. Or maybe you're like some of us, and I want it to be larger. I want it easier to hit that button that I'm looking for. Okay. And also the other thing is customizing the ribbon. All I'm doing to get to these menus is my right click. Okay. When I go into customize, there's all sorts of commands here. There's all sorts of cool stuff that you can add, you can put into your own groups. And again, that quick reference card, the guide, talks about this and tells you how to do that. Okay. Now I swear I'm really done with that part of shortening the curve. Unless there's any questions, and Matt, jump in if there's anybody with questions on that. When it comes to the core functionalities, you know, part modeling, surface modeling, drawing, sheet metal, the overall interface, you'll find that there's really very little that has changed your workflow. The way you do things has not changed. You can see there's a lot of little changes to the interface. Most of them, though, are so intuitive and so around streamlining that you won't even notice they changed. Hey, instead of having to do 2 or 3 clicks, guess what? I only have to do 1 or 2 clicks for a lot of the things. But I initiate them. I start them the same way that I always have. Okay. When I go into part modeling mode, it used to be, well, years ago, you could only draft 15 degrees. And then PTC changed it to 30 degrees. Well, guess what? Now, as long as I draft or add taper to an extrude feature, as long as the value is less than 90 degrees, I can do it. I'm not sure why you'd want an 89-degree draft, but you can do it as long as the resultant geometry is true. Okay. The other one that I love is, it used to always be that you had to go to the lead instance of a pattern. You always had to remember which one was the first instance of a pattern for a bolt hole pattern, for a boss, for a rib, whatever you had patterned, to be able to modify the dimensions of that entity. Not anymore. I can select any instance in the pattern. I can ref pattern, so do a reference pattern off of any of the instances in the pattern. I don't have to remember which one the first one is all the time. Okay. I love that just from a usability point of view. But again, that's not a learning issue because you can still do it the way you always did it. Okay. When it comes to surfacing, most of what's around surfacing is really behind the scenes improving the quality of the surfacing that we make. The smoothness, the continuity, the ability to, the connections. So making the tangent or curvature continuous connections to other surfaces. All that has been improved upon. But again, it's behind the scenes. It doesn't really affect what you do as a user. There's some new functionality around being able to flatten a non-ruled quilt. So I can have a 3D quilt in space and I can now flatten that. And there's also the ability to do some untrimming of imported surfaces. I can untrim them back to the mathematical definition of that surface, which you don't see as a user. In drawing mode, and we can look at this if there's interest, when you're doing the drawing notes, you now have what you see is what you get. So it looks like a word processor in that when I go and make something bold and when I go make something italic, when I change font styles, I don't have to complete out of that note. I can preview it and see exactly what it is going to look like on my drawing page. And then in sheet metal, there's a lot of little stuff. Okay, I always enjoyed sheet metal, but sheet metal's always been one of those, at least to me, that there's a bunch of little things you have to remember. Oh, when I do a corner, I'm going to have to, because I'm doing this bend, I have to rip it first, or I have to go and do this little thing, or I have to go do that little thing, or I can't flatten this and that at the same time. Guess what? It's been, almost all of that has been resolved. So rips, bends, flattens are much more robust. Okay, and again, that's great from an enhancement point of view, but there's really nothing on a learning curve you have to worry about there. You can just do things simpler than you used to be able to do them. There's a couple of new capabilities that I find exciting. The first one is design exploration. So I've got, I've got this product, I've got a bracket, and I've got 2 stabilizing ribs, but I want to go, I don't know, maybe I want 3, maybe I want larger ones, maybe I want a different shape. So design exploration allows me to not have to do a save as on my model and have 5 or 10 different, save as, -1, -2, -3, -4. I can go and I can do design exploration, and I can look at all these variants, and then I can choose which one I want. Say, okay, this is the one I want, this is the one I'm going to move forward with. And now I can roll that into, I don't have to worry about updating or replacing components in assembly mode. Okay. The other one, it's a, for a while, additive manufacturing, 3D printing was a big hot topic. I find it exciting. I've worked a little bit with 3D printers, and I've seen some of the cool stuff they can do. It was always fun, but as a CAD guy, you had to take your models, you had to save them typically as an STL file, okay? Then open them up in some package that the 3D printer used so that you could arrange them, so that you could put them in the tray, in the printer envelope, and maybe lay out multiple ones. Guess what? PTC's partnered with Stratasys, so now you can do direct printing from Creo Parametric straight into the Stratasys printer, and you can do that layout type of stuff. You don't have to worry about converting to an STL file, converting or opening it and doing layout in another package. I find that cool. I like that. If you're using 3D printing, it's a cool thing. It makes it easier for you. Okay. One of the other things is MathCAD. So if you're using MathCAD to do very elaborate, complex calculations, engineering validation on your designs, you've always been able to tie, or for quite a few years now, you've been able to tie MathCAD to Creo, but they've been external to one another. Guess what? You can now embed MathCAD worksheets inside of Creo Parametric. So you don't have to have 2 files that you're referencing anymore, and you don't have to worry about maintaining the links between them. There's also, for a long time, we've had layouts, but layouts as an object type that we could do top-down design with. Now we have layout features, so I can incorporate that top-down design philosophy right into my models. And then there's a bunch of new stuff around drawing standards, new ISO, ASME, and Russian drawing standards that are now supported. And then the last 2, kind of getting back to some of the exciting ones, is what PTC calls Unite technology. This is multi-CAD within Creo. So I can now, without having any types of other licenses, for example, I can open a SolidWorks file and I can assemble it to my Creo Parametric assembly. Okay, cool. I like that. But what happens when the SolidWorks file updates? Not a problem. Creo knows the reference entities that you did your make, constrain, align to, so it updates, just like a Creo file would. Okay. So for those of us who have to work in all sorts of different CAD environments, this is really nice. And then finally is the intelligent fastener. Okay. There's intelligent fastener full capabilities, which requires a license, but there's also the light, intelligence fastener light, which you'll find under tools, screw. It allows you to do intelligent fasteners, make the holes so that they're clearance, interference, tap one, add a bolt, add nuts, all that, and washers, all as you want by just kind of picking and saying, okay, I want a bolt hole here, I want it dimensioned off of here, and I want it to do both parts. And it can do those holes at the part level, not just at the assembly level. Some cool stuff there.
Hey, Dan, we got one quick question for you. It does. What improvements have been made regarding locking drawer views, WF5, and before cause non-related views to move out of place even on other pages?
Okay. Oh, so if I think I get it right, so it's on drawing views in Wildfire 5. If the model changed size, the drawing views would move around. Is that what? Let us know. Type back into your chat if that's what you're talking about. So I haven't seen that in 3.0. 3.0 is much more stable. The way we solved that in 5 was to actually explicitly set the drawing origin for the drawing view. So you could go into the properties set for the drawing view and set origin and pick on your default coordinate system, for instance, okay, and set that so that it wouldn't move around anymore. But I haven't seen that in 3.0. If that's what the person's talking about, please let us know. Any others, or was that the only question so far?
That was the only one that kind of pertains to what we're working on right now. So.
Okay. Excellent. Okay, compatibility. Compatibility really hopefully is not any type of show driver. There's now compatibility. You can use the embedded browser. You've been able to for a long time use Internet Explorer and use Firefox. Well, now you can use the Chromium browser. For those of you that don't know, Chromium is the open source base for the Google Chrome browser. You've got compatibility with Microsoft Office 2013 now and the Windchill versions that are supported, just to make sure that everybody is aware. There's a bunch of resources, and I'm going to pull up some of these because I think they're really important to know. There's in the PTC product documentation, and we'll go there here in a second, there's 4 that are critical to know. Is the what's new. Okay, that's going to go line by line and tell you all the hundreds of little things that have changed. And like I said, from a user point of view, most of it is just very intuitive and you won't have to worry about it. There's a read this first. It's always good to know, hey, what do I need to, before I upgrade, it's going to give you some things to look at and make sure you're aware of. Hardware notes, either if you've got existing hardware, or especially if you have old hardware, okay, this is your workstations, you'll want to look and make sure, hey, is it compatible? Or really important when you go to buy new stuff, let's make sure we're compatible. Okay, let's make sure we're using a supported configuration. And then the quick reference card. I already showed you the quick reference card, so, but they're all here on, and the URL is there in the presentation. It brings me to PTC's tech support product documentation page, or reference documents as they call it. I can filter all this out for whatever type of object I'm looking for, but there's a whole bunch of really good stuff in here. One of the ones I didn't list, because I know you already know all about all the config.pro options, but guess what? Here's a listing of all of them. Okay. If you want to get into some more advanced API types of stuff, and even the license server, there's the installation and configuration guide. I don't think I listed that, but if you need that information, it's there. All the compatibility roadmaps for future stuff, but you'll see if you go dig into those, there's really nothing unexpected in there. But here's the quick reference card. Here's the read this first. Okay. So that reference documentation stuff is really, you got to know where that is. I assume most of you are administrators. The other thing I like, whether you're an administrator or a user, is the learning exchange. I think PTC's done a good job on this. You can come here and there's topic-based videos. And here you can look up, short videos on what it is I want to do. Okay, so design optimization in Creo Simulate. We used to, the optimization studies. You can see there's a bunch of cool stuff in here.
Hey Dan,
Yeah.
they did follow up with that question. It's he says after unlocking a drawing views on a page, other views on a different page would sometimes move out of place.
Okay. See, I've never seen that in Creo 3. I don't know if I recall it in Wildfire 5, but I'm totally willing to help look at that if we can reproduce that either in 5 or see if it happens in 3.
Okay.
Okay. The other one before I toggle back is the PTC Help Center. So you may well have, and probably already do, have the help for your current version installed. But if you haven't installed it locally, you come to this URL, and you can come here, and I can go into the Help Center here on ptc.com. And it's the same Help Center that you can load either locally or on each user's computer, or you can do it on a web server on your own computer. I'm sorry, in your own company network. Okay, and then that brings up that. Let's see. I also have I put together a user group presentation of what's different between 2.0 and 3.0, and it goes into kind of technical details. But again, it's only half a dozen slides long. From the core functionality, again, what users are going to see is subtle stuff that you're not going to notice unless you're looking for it. Again, I refer back to those earlier slides when we looked at the interface, the ribbon between 2 and 3, and saw, guess what, there's just not a lot of differences. Okay, an icon is softer now, but it still looks the same. You're not going to, most users aren't going to notice that the icon has functionally changed, and because it hasn't functionally changed, it's just visually changed a little bit. There's Precision LMS, which is the PTC University web-based training. It's something you subscribe to, but again, that's very cool, and you can get into very formalized, hey, I want to learn a sweep, and here's some lecture on how to perform a sweep, and then here's exercises on that. Okay. And their Precision LMS does have an update class, but you'll find that there's, again, there's less than a day of material there because moving up to 3.0 is not particularly difficult. And then finally, YouTube. If you haven't discovered YouTube and all the stuff that's out there, go for it. You'll have to kind of filter on your own for quality, but most of it's really pretty good. Okay. Any other questions? That's the material. We can look more in depth as you have any questions. Obviously, I have Creo here loaded and it's up and running. Let us know what questions you have.
Dan, one of the things that actually come across is some of the folks were asking if you could do a little more, some more demos of some of the things that you did highlight, maybe even within the sheet metal portion of that. I'm not sure if you could do any of those kind of changes or demos. That might be helpful as well.
But you know what? We can look at it. Like I said, most of it is just things you don't have to do anymore. Yeah. I've got a couple. Like I said, I've got that user group presentation.
Okay.
So, which I'm happy to mail to people.
Okay.
But let's take a look and see if this answers the question. So, for instance, on Sheetmetal, where did I put it? Here it is. You can see a couple of the things that we can look at is I've got the ability to bend across.
Hey, Dan.
If you,
There you go. All right.
go ahead.
We lost your audio there for a moment.
Oh, I see. I just got a little flag saying my network's been back up.
All right.
Um,
So we kind of lost you right at where you started talking about the bend portion of it.
Okay. Let's see. So the bend stuff, you can see I can bend across multiple surfaces. If you try to bend this part, I forgot what the name was. Of that file, but there's some options for bend relief when I'm going across multiple surfaces like that. And let's see. Flatten form features with children. You don't have to flatten all of it. That's kind of the example in the bottom right corner. Let's see. Let's see if I have, oops, that model. Let's see. No, I don't have that model ready. Take a second to expand it. But are there other questions? Let me pull up and open up that model, those files. Well, if there's any other questions.
Okay. Yeah. Next question would be: can you apply a different color to a copied surface that is different than the geometry? So allows to turn the copied feature on and off so that you can toggle the colors. It could be done in 2.0. I guess they're asking if it can still be done in 3.
Yeah, I can assign. Let's see, where is? Well, you know what? Let's look up the appearance manager. Okay. So, for instance, here's one of the locations. I can come in and so I think what you're talking about is just applying colors to specific surfaces. Now, if this was a copied surface, I can just do that. I can pick the copied surface and apply it to just that copied surface. So there's nothing in appearances that I'm aware of that's not there anymore. So, however, if this isn't what you're talking about, let me know. We can try it a different way. But yeah.
Okay. Then the next question is the pro process? Sorry, all right, they're moving around on me. Is the pro process for assembly still in Creo 3.0?
Compare from 2.0 to 3.0, that hasn't changed. But if you're looking at there is now Creo. It's in one of the Creo View applications where most of the pro process for assembly functionality is now in.
Okay. Next question would be: are there any changes in cabling at all?
I'm not aware of any, and I haven't seen from 2 to 3. There's not. From 5 to 2 there is, but not from 2 to 3.
Okay. Alrighty. Questions are kind of coming in fast and furious now. So, any integration of Creo schematics? Any integration of Creo schematics, routed system designer into Creo Parametric and Creo 3?
I'm not sure. Can you read that again to me?
Yeah, it says any integration of Creo schematics, any routed systems designer into Creo Parametric in Creo 3.
So that should all be the same as it was. I'm not aware of any changes. So here I pulled up the what's new list, and I told you that there's extensive changes here. So what I want, or I shouldn't say extensive changes, there's extensive documentation on all the little changes here in this. And I want to pull up because I think this is kind of related to cabling. Layout, oh, that was the layout functionality I told you about. Yeah, so there's really nothing significant. You can see the list here in cabling and routed system design, and then that last one, yeah, I don't see any changes on that at all, and I'm not aware of anything else.
Okay. Let's see. Going back to the color question, I guess what Mark was using it for, he says he's typically used this to create a family table to allow a part to have two different colors. You can apply a color to a surface, just not a copied surface.
Well, you know what, Mark? Let's do. If we don't have other questions at the moment, let's copy a surface and find out. Because I see what you're doing is you're copying the surfaces so you can turn them on and off in your family table so that you get different colors. I don't believe that has changed at all, but let's let me select a surface. Okay, there we go. Let's see. Okay, so if we paste, I'm going to just paste that surface right over the top of it, and let's see if we can render. I'm going to do a pick from list so that we can hopefully get that copied surface. Okay, so we're on copy. Yeah, so that's exactly the way I'm doing that. So if you weren't doing that before, I don't believe that's new, but that's the way I've done it before. Just let us know, Mark, if that answers your question. So what I did was I copied the surface, and then when I apply the appearance, you notice that I did a right-click pick from list so that I could get to the surface off of here. You saw I can't pick it off the model tree, which is a little annoying, but pick from list gives it to me. More questions? More clarifications?
Yeah, we got one more while we see if I think you were on the right track with what Mark was doing, and I just kind of typed back with him to see if he had any other response. But the other question that I think kind of pertained to this is, it says, related to the question regarding drawing views, it is my experience that when the overall outline of a product changes, the addition of a box, larger frame, etc., the windows move all around and balloon lines get out of scale. Has this been addressed in Creo 3.0?
So that behavior is not any different. The way to do that is, let me show you a new drawing. Okay, so I'm gonna just make a drawing of this impeller real quick and throw it in. Is what happens if you notice here? See the outline of the view? That outline of the view is actually the bounding box of the part. If you look at, let's go back to the part. There's actually a rectangular solid that encloses this. And if you look at model size, okay, again, I love the command search. It's not because I'm lazy, I swear, it's because I'm efficient. See this bounding box, this rectangular box? This is what, and then there's the diagonal. That diagonal, if you notice down here, it tells me that the size of this model is 106.7 millimeters. What does that mean? That's not how much space it takes up on disk or in RAM, any of that. It's the length of the diagonal bounding box. This comes into play in two places. One, Creo uses relative accuracy, so when a feature regenerates, the size of the model when that feature is regenerating, okay, That's where relative accuracy comes in. And then you can also see it comes in for this drawing view. It sets the drawing view. So if you go into the properties of the drawing view and you come to origin, and instead of saying view center, I can say on item, and I can select a point and say I always want. You can get elaborate, and you can pick like your default coordinate system. But if I pick this entity, now my view will always be centered exactly here as the part grows and as I add other parts to it. Okay, so that's how that's solved. There's no difference in the way Creo behaves, but this is the way to get it to behave the way you want it to behave.
Okay. The next, kind of related to the bounding box portion, one is, can the bounding box dimensions be assessed, exported, or displayed?
Boy, I don't know. Let me. If so, I know Model Mass Properties has a bunch more information in it than it used to have. I don't know if model size is in here now. Yeah, I just don't know the answer to that. I know you used to not be able to. I don't know if there's something that I'm unaware of. Maybe there's an analysis feature that does it. Yeah, I don't. Let's take a look at.
His follow-up to that is, why wouldn't accuracy be set to absolute?
Okay, well, because what happens if if I use absolute accuracy, that means that's kind of the limit that Creo will revolve around. And what should that be? Should that be 1/1000th of an inch? Well, what happens if I'm working in semiconductor and I'm working on 45 nanometer stuff? That's not going to work. So, and if I'm working in AEC, architectural and engineering construction, well, I don't care. 1/1000th of an inch is much too refined for my 100-foot long bridge. Okay, so Creo takes an adaptive approach to geometry accuracy. Now, Creo has the ability, I can come into accuracy and I can set it absolute, okay, and I can change the value as well, but that's why it doesn't default to absolute out of the box.
All right, so Marvin's second, or I guess third question, he says, the sheet metal start part uses absolute accuracy.
Wow, I did not know that. Let's go look at it. That's got me intrigued. I never noticed that before. Come on. Yeah, it does. Very interesting. And maybe that's because sheet metal thicknesses are so, there's such a standard range that they do that. Yeah, that's fascinating. I never noticed that. Anything else you guys want to teach me today? I love learning new things.
He said all in thin wall models require absolute.
It depends on how thin it is. I don't know if you've noticed when you go to shell something, a lot of times it will tell you, oh, that's too thin to shell it. Guess why? Relative accuracy. So yeah, you're right. A lot of places who do very thin wall, and again, that's relative to the size of the model. If I'm doing a mouse, I can make something that's 50 thousandths of an inch thick. because my overall model's 3 or 4 inches. If I'm doing, you know, a panel cover, you're absolutely right. I need to either increase the relative accuracy or go to an absolute accuracy model. Any more questions?
Nope, that's about it. Just Marvin said thin wall equals sheet metal in most cases. So
yeah. The other thing I want to throw back up here, just so that if you guys want the presentation, oops, wrong presentation. If you want the, the presentation I just closed, and I said, as I showed you, it's really pretty simple. You can use it to show to your other users and go through and just talk about, hey, what are the major changes? But here's my email address, and it's actually, I'll throw it up on here. It's a little larger.
Hey, we actually got 2 more questions, Dan, and then we are probably gonna have to wrap this up just
Okay.
due to kind of time constraints. But how to include default axis and planes when creating a part in assembly?
Okay, so you're talking about assembly mode. When I go and do model, I can create right here. Okay, when I do this, what I want to do, okay, so here's when I go next here, guess what? This says where you're doing. I want to do a copy from existing and go to where my start model is. Okay, so that's what you want to be doing, is using your start model. And this is actually configured with a config.pro option, start template model dir and template model solid. Okay, so you don't want to do empty. If you do empty here, there won't be anything there. You can see here, I can do this, and I can pick the axis and the 3 planes, okay? But, excuse me, then I don't get my company layers, I don't get parameters, I don't get any of that. So you want to be doing copy from existing and grab your start part.
Okay. And then kind of the last question that we have is, does 3.0 use the same license file, or is a new one required?
If your previous license file was only good through 2.0, then you have to update it. You can use the same license server, but you do need to make sure that your license file says 3.0 on it. And you can, if you look at your license file, I've got one here somewhere. Let me see if I can find it in the next couple of seconds. So when you look at your license file itself, it's going to tell you whether or not it's good for Creo 3.0 or not. Okay.
Okay.
Great.
All right. Yeah, I think that's all. Guys, if you do have any other questions, we're going to do a couple more things here as we sign this off. I'm going to take over as presenter here, Dan, and close us out with some other business that we have to take care of. But if you guys do have any other further questions, please don't hesitate to either reach out to myself or Dan, and we'll be more than happy to answer those questions for you. So we've kind of done the wrap up there. We also do offer training sessions if you'd like. We have PTC certified training in 8 facilities. We can also do training virtually if you like, and we also can do on-site training if you need or have a group of folks within your company that would like to do some training. And you can access that on our website there, at b-wi.com/training. You can also reach out to our National Training Manager, Joe Ferret, if you have any questions, and he can take care of you and help your team any training questions that you may have. Also, we got PTC LiveWorks that's coming up here in about 2 weeks, June 6th through the 9th. You can use our promo code BWIC 2016 to receive a discount on your LiveWorks pass. Obviously, if you're at LiveWorks, please stop by the booth and have a chat with us. We'd be more than happy to talk with anybody. If you have any questions or just want to say hi, we'd be more than happy to see you and put faces to some of the names that we see here quite often. Also, PTC is you can save 35% off on Creo simulation and analyst solutions through the end of June. Also, they have a new promotion going on. It's a Get Active promotion that they're calling that you can use. And if you're already using 3D CAD, you can take a look at it. When you trade in your old licenses today against a new subscription license, you can save up to 80%. And with a multi-year agreement, you can lock in incredibly low prices. Your annual subscription covers software, support, and training. That's just one payment and no surprises. So if you're interested in upgrading and something that's probably be a good time to do that as well, and we'd be more than happy to help you out with that. And that all of these webcasts are archived on our website, b-wi.com. I will get this one up here this afternoon, and you can view it back if you like. And with that, thanks, Dan, for everything. Like I've said multiple times, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or Dan. We'll be more than happy to help you in any way possible. But with that, we will end it. And thank you all for your time. Have a great day. Have a great weekend. Have a good Memorial Day weekend. Thank you all. Bye-bye.